As petrol supplies dwindle and cars get faster, we're taking a look at alternative fuel sources, and one of them will be powering your car soon. The new Vectra is critically important for Opel, but will it be good enough to take on the market leaders like Mondeo and Passat? It better be. The internal combustion engine has changed little in 100 years, and designers of early petrol engines would easily understand the principles involved in even the most sophisticated of modern engines. In that 100 years, the car may have done less damage to the planet than one jumbo jet or all the cows that have ever had a digestion problem in the same period, but it's taken most of the blame, and scientists have been searching for an answer since the early 50s, when the photosynthesis of unburnt hydrocarbons first became an issue. And though we have taken giant steps towards solving the performance versus economy dilemma, there's a long way to go, and not much petrol left to get us there. So everyone in the car industry is looking for ways to go further for less petrol, or to go anywhere with no petrol. What we're talking about is alternative fuel sources. Laughable as it seems, you could be looking at the basis for your new car right here. It may take a while to reach production, but think about this. 25 years ago, when the Shell Eco Marathon first ran, it was won by Cranfield Institute of Technology at what still seems like an astonishing 1,097 miles to the gallon. These days, the rules are very detailed, even going as far as permitting the preheating of lubricating oil, but the basic principles those rules enshrine have hardly changed at all. Though there is now a category for solar-powered vehicles, the main emphasis is on the internal combustion engine, calling for petrol or diesel units. Vehicles are permitted onboard electrical power for instruments, starters and the like, but it must be unavailable to the engine as a power source. And that engine must have inlet and exhaust valves mechanically driven by an engine-powered camshaft. No electrically driven valves are allowed. The figures have improved year on year, and a new world record was set last year at, get ready for this, 10,200 miles to the gallon. So what you're looking at here may seem like a bit of light-hearted fun for some, but its purpose is far more serious and meaningful. Some of these young people will go on to be research scientists in the fuel industry, and they will be using what they've learned already to help build cleaner and more efficient engines, cars and fuels. Don't expect it to be happening to your car within the next few years, but do expect the combination of fuel and engine technology plus regular engineering and aerodynamic advances to deliver to the showroom cars which will be capable of the economy which will be demanded of them as the global economy changes, and with it our perception of the motor vehicle and what we want it to do for us as individuals and collectively. Another solution would be to replace petrol entirely. And there are several suggestions for a hydrogen fuel cell, an idea so appealing that you know there has to be a catch. Mix hydrogen and oxygen, get power in the shape of electricity and emission in the shape of water so pure you can drink it. And researchers used to do that all the time just to prove the point. The catch was that you needed a big heavy container to store your hydrogen and oxygen, a big heavy pressure vessel for them to combine in, and a big heavy electric motor to drive your car. But technology moves along faster than most of us can imagine, and the latest version of Opel's fuel cell is about 1 metre long and less than half of that in diameter. It holds 75 litres of liquid hydrogen, and it fits neatly under the rear seats of a Zafira. The fuel cells live under the hood and deliver 80 kilowatts to an electric motor that drives the front wheels. The whole package weighs only 68 kilos, produces instant power with maximum torque available all the time, and takes the Zafira to 60 miles an hour in 15 seconds, and it runs practically noise-free all the way to 90 miles an hour. It's not quite ready for production or for everyday use, but it's as close as any other alternative energy source, and it's the focus of a great deal of collaboration between the world's car makers. BMW have been developing hydrogen as an alternative fuel for more than 20 years, and this 750 is the 5th generation of its type. The BMW solution is a conventional engine powered by super-chilled hydrogen stored in a tank behind the rear seats, and BMW say this is the world's only fully sustainable energy source, since it can be manufactured from water. Eco-pessimists will of course immediately question the sustainability of water as a source for drinking, never mind the washing or powering of cars. That aside, the idea is brilliant, because nothing more sinister than water comes out of the tailpipe. There's no need for a catalytic converter, and the power of the engine is at least the equal of similar petrol or diesel units. BMW also say that the technology used in the hydrogen 750 has already advanced far enough to permit realistic planning for series production. And in fact, a fleet of the cars has already been used as shuttles during Expo 2000 in Hanover. BMW goes further and say the cost of the cars and the fuel will be similar to that of conventional equivalents when production begins. Current planning to make this a genuinely sustainable fuel source means that BMW is already working on ways of producing the fuel from natural resources like wind or solar power rather than natural gas, which is where it comes from now, creating a genuine closed energy cycle. There should be a network of hydrogen-equipped filling stations at BMW dealerships within the next 5 years, and they are planning a major expansion of facilities, so there should be a realistic number of refuelling stations all over Europe within about 10 years from now. We as a people and a planet don't really have 10 years to spare, so interim solutions have cropped up all over the place, mostly as concepts, but a few of them as truly viable products. Some of the resulting vehicles are hybrids with a combination of petrol or diesel engines and electric units, where the electric motor starts the ball rolling and the petrol engine takes over and then drives the car and recharges the batteries. Less common, but perhaps preferable, is the all-electric answer, such as we saw a while back in the fairly pleasing shape of the Ford Think. Now, when Ford showed its City Electric project car at Geneva last year, we said that we all know this is the way the industry should be heading. Full-time, full-on, full commitment, instead of spending it on hugely powerful sports cars we all enjoy so much. We did also say we thought there was more chance of driving a car like this in 5 years than there would be of driving almost any of the other concept cars surrounding it at the show. And isn't it nice to be right? Because it is already in production and on sale in the USA, and it'll be available in Europe next year. Think 2 is powered by 300 kilos of batteries hidden in the floor. They give it a range of around 50 miles and a top speed of about 60 miles an hour. Standstill to 100 kilometers an hour takes an impressively brief 6.5 seconds, making this a useful piece of kit for the commuting ordeal. There's plenty of room inside too for people and luggage, and it's been especially designed to be female friendly, because Ford believe women will be more impressed by the simplicity of plugging it into the wall each night than men, and they'll care less about not being able to roar about the place at 1,000,000 miles an hour than most male drivers would. Meanwhile, Volkswagen designers and engineers have taken a step in a different direction, apparently borrowing some of their inspiration from the strange-looking devices we saw on the Eco Marathon and producing a viable and incredibly economical diesel engine prototype. The target they set themselves was well short of the astronomical figures achieved by Eco Marathon warriors, but laudable just the same: 100 kilometres of driving on 1 litre of fuel. When VW chairman Dr. Ferdinand Piëch announced the project 2 years ago, he also said it would be completed before his retirement. Incredibly, that's exactly what happened, and when he drove the little car up the Autobahn from the Wolfsburg factory to the shareholders' meeting in Hamburg for his formal retirement, it returned 0.99 of a litre per 100 kilometres, just inside the target figure. If you can't count in litres, that translates to a more traditional 285 miles to the gallon, but VW found the metric more memorable and christened the car 1L. Though it produces only just over 8 horsepower from a 300cc alloy engine, 1L's performance wasn't embarrassing on the highway. In fact, far from it. VW say it has an astonishingly lively temperament, with a top speed of 75 miles an hour. The fact that it can do that is the clue to the way it achieves such excellent economy, because it weighs practically nothing. Built from carbon fibre composite on a magnesium space frame with the carbon unpainted to save yet more weight, it's less than 300 kilos, a quarter of the weight of a Polo, and yet it's a two-seater with luggage space, as well as an automatic gearbox, ABS and ESP and a driver's airbag. And it has crumple zones and rollover protection, to the extent that Volkswagen say safety levels in this car are similar to those you'd expect in a GT race car. It's a practical and enjoyable method of attaining supreme economy from an internal combustion engine, but it'll never be available as it stands, simply because the cost of those exotic weight-saving materials is far too high for series production. But VW are certain that the low-height, narrow body and tandem seat layout will be seen in future low-cost and high-economy products, and maybe even a supercar as well. From the exotic to the everyday, and from the unlikely to the very necessary, we'll be back on the road with our feet on the ground next. It's crunch time at Russelsheim, and Opel knows that this new car is vital to future success as GM sales in Europe start to look a bit thin. It's no exaggeration to say that this car's replacement, the new Vectra for old Vectra, is the single most important new model introduction for Opel since the last new Vectra. Especially so because the last one failed to please the vital business car users, or very many other people either, come to that. The problem was that old Vectra seemed to be a typical piece of corporate thinking, with all the exciting new bits filed off in the design phase by executives who didn't want to lose their jobs by getting things wrong. And of course we all know that the easiest way to ensure you don't is not to do anything different or radical. And it's an almost unavoidable curse that is only avoided in car companies with very strong leadership. Old Vectra, then, was dull, bland. It set out to be all things to all men and finished up being almost nothing to almost everyone, which is a tragedy considering the way its predecessor took over so strongly where the once dominant Cavalier had left off. So this car has to be good. All else aside, it's up against some very serious opposition in the very attractive shapes of Mondeo, Laguna and Primera, naming just three of the class rivals the Vectra has to beat. But don't forget that Citroën are in there as well. Mazda's new 6 is very much up to the mark, and the Passat-based Skoda Octavia is also worth considering. And there's Passat itself as well. But it's Mondeo that leads the class, a combination of good looks, massive amounts of interior space, and a chassis that's as close to perfect as it gets. It's an all-rounder with space, space and more space as its key feature, and it's already a success in the all-important business market, which ought to be the heartland of Vectra sales. From any angle and anywhere in the range, this will be a tough one to beat. Funky new styling inside and out has brought lots of accolades for the new shape Primera, only very recently available across Europe. High levels of equipment and the cute styling from Nissan's British-based designers are its hallmarks in this group, and for those reasons, plus the excellent reputation of the previous model, it's bound to sell, and sell in very good numbers. Even so, it shouldn't really be a threat to Mondeo or Vectra. Shouldn't be, that is, not won't be. First shown at Frankfurt last year, the new Camry is an important car for Toyota in world terms. But in Europe, it's something of a niche model. Pretty new looks and a typically comprehensive Japanese spec list make it an interesting choice for buyers at the upper levels of this market segment. And Toyota think it could well be a sleeper, pulling in sales at a slow but steady pace, and definitely worth a look if you're looking but undecided. The C5 is Citroen's replacement for the 8-year-old Xantia, and you can tell straight away from its looks that it's taken the unconventional approach to the segment, and not just in Citroen's continuing loyalty to that hydraulic suspension. As its taller, squarer shape suggests, it's brilliant for space and comfort, but a bit vague on the road if you're enthusiastic. So its best point is a huge and spacious interior, but it's still hardly the basis for mass market appeal. Based on Passat, class leader for anything to do with engineering or build quality, and perhaps image as well, the Octavia ought to sell in far higher numbers than it does. Sadly, the excellence of the car is tarnished by ancient perceptions of clattery old rear-engined devices, and not even the attractive pricing that goes with the modern quality standards seem able to overcome all that history. It's our best buy if you don't have any Joneses to keep up with. So that's the arena Vectra must conquer, and externally it looks as if they've got the job right. As is so often the case with Opel, the hatchback manages to be a bit better looking than the saloon in any profile or view that lets the long curve of the rear side window stretch and lower the appearance of the whole car. The saloon is lumpier, almost a notch back if you follow the glass line, not the pillar, but that's entirely a subjective opinion and doesn't change the basic truth that this is a good-looking car, easily able to hold its head up in the company in which it has to move. But it's moving that will define its success or failure, because it was largely in its lack of any real driving pleasure that brought so much criticism to the previous model. That and a somewhat characterless interior, which has now been replaced by a neat, attractive and clever package with space, toys and thoughtful design, all serving to create a spacious and comfortable environment that benefits from extra space all round. The driving position is as good as it gets, with the rake and reach adjustable steering wheel that's been available on other GM cars for decades finally making it to Vectra level, along with a multi-adjustable driver's seat that means no problem for 6-footers or 5s. Switchgear seems to have come from the Omega in many cases, and the tidy rotary controls not only have hi-fi style clickability, they're laid out with a formal precision even BMW would be happy with. A control panel in the driver's door armrest gathers all the odd switches for windows, mirrors and boot release that are normally scattered around the cabin and puts them in one place, and all things considered, this is looking like a good place to be if you have to spend a lot of your working life on the motorway or on the open road. Under the bonnet, there's enough space to cram in the V6 unit from the Omega, and that really should be quite a lot of fun, but otherwise the lineup hasn't really changed. That could be a weak point, since the engines score quite highly in the new emissions-based tax bands, and that really could affect the long-term cost of ownership in the exact areas where business buyers pay the most attention. It seems Vectra will have to be aggressively priced to make up for that, and if it has an Achilles heel, this could be it. That and the tall gearing, designed to make the motorway miles easy and the fuel consumption good. It takes a little edge off the driving experience and is probably the only real complaint about its road behaviour, though there is a slight numbness in the steering, designed for cruising stability as the engineers shape the car to the task. Great on motorways, but uninformative on B roads. Which detracts nothing from the chassis. The handling is precise, the road holding good, the turn-in, well, it's pin sharp, but you can't feel it being pin sharp, which may take a bit of getting used to. But the sum of all those parts is that this is a huge leap forward from old Vectra. And while some testers may feel that it hasn't quite leapt alongside the benchmark Mondeo, it's ahead of the rest, and close enough for it not to make a great deal of difference. Before price and final specification are decided, Vectra seems to be back on course, and it looks capable of holding position in the marketplace.